Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks, and with 2024 coming to a close, it's time once again to recap my top 10 favorite films of the year. It was another solid year for movies, certainly got me outside of my comfort zone a bit for some of these movies, but what really stood out to me this year was that while there were a number of films that definitely disappointed me and let me down, there was a lot of more movies that really surprised me and caught me off guard. There were a lot of movies that I really wasn't looking forward to seeing this year, but when I was able to see them, they really caught me by surprise. I ended up falling in love with a lot of those movies despite my low expectations, and hopefully that continues into the new year, as I'm always down for movies that can genuinely surprise me. And as with every year, I have to preface this before we start the list by saying these are my opinions. It's alright if you disagree with them. Just as long as you're respectful of mine, I'll be respectful of yours. And of course, I haven't seen every single movie that has come out this year. That's impossible, so that's why a movie you may be expecting to be on this list may not be on this list. As long as you understand those things, I think it'll be smooth sailing from here. But without further ado, let's get started with this top 10 list by mentioning my honorable mentions. The Fall Guy, Big City Greens the Movie Spacecation, Transformers 1, Bad Boys Ride or Die, Hitman, and Abigail. And without further ado, let's count down the top 10 best films of 2024. Number 10. Starting my list with number 10, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Yes, one of the most recent films of the year that I saw was able to manage to squeak into the top 10 just because I had such a good time with this movie. It was able to deliver on everything it promised to me. Great action, strong visual effects and animation, really fun and likable characters, more emphasis on the main core Sonic characters that we wanted to see on the big screen, really funny jokes, a strong emotional core, and one of, if not the best final battles I have ever seen in a movie all year. It is sure to please both Sonic fans and even Dragon Ball fans for how insanely awesome that final big action sequence is. I cannot stress it enough. I had such a good time with this movie, and I'm just a casual Sonic fan. I'm not one of those diehard Sonic fans on the internet, but this movie really gave me a good time. I had such a fun time watching this movie, and this is one of the few films on this list that is actually still in theaters to watch right now. So if you haven't checked it out yet by this point, please go see this movie. I think you're all going to really enjoy it. It's definitely the best film in the trilogy, and even my favorite film adaptation of a video game. Certainly, in my opinion, the big family movie to see this holiday season. I cannot recommend it enough. Please go check it out. I had a great time with this. Number 9. Number 9 is Hundreds of Beavers. If you've been on the internet, specifically in the film community, you've probably seen this movie floating around here throughout the year, as it was able to quickly become this big phenomenon in this area, solely because it was just so funny and better than it had any right to be. Very reminiscent of the classic Looney Tunes, only told through the visuals and in live action form. This is hands down one of, if not the funniest film I have seen all year. Just so many clever slapstick and visual gags, and some of them are so clever you have to question, how did anybody even come up with this? It just takes a really strong creative mind to come up with gags and jokes like this, and I cannot believe they were able to make so many of them work so well in such a big amount of quantity, and none of them felt flat for me. It was all very well executed, very funny, and led to one of the most insane climaxes I've seen all year. I think I pretty much said all that needs to be said about this. If you're in the mood for something really silly, really reminiscent of the classic Looney Tunes, and something that'll give you a good laugh from beginning to end, this is the movie to see. Go check it out. It's on free streaming platforms like Pluto TV, Tubi, and even on YouTube free with ads. So go check it out as soon as possible. It's very, very funny. Number 8. Dune Part 2. If you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you know that I am not a big fan of the first film. To put it simply, I think it's style over substance. So to see this movie win me over to the degree it did is absolutely shocking. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of the first one. I agree with the fans of the book. That movie is really uninteresting and even boring. This one has everything that I wanted out of that first one. Great action, compelling characters, an exciting and engaging story, and visuals unlike anything I've seen before, bringing us into this world that looks absolutely stunning and gorgeous and really captivated my eyeballs. It was just so visually stunning, and the rest of the film was even more stunning with its great story, and it's actually able to get me hyped up for the next film, which I'm really excited about to see whenever that comes out. Hopefully they don't rush it out to meet a deadline. Hopefully they allow Denis Villeneuve to take his time with it, because I really think they got a winner on his hands with this movie now, seeing as how this one was just leagues better than the first one. It was able to win me over to that degree. And if it's able to win, again, a Dune naysayer like me this much, then I'm sure it's going to win a lot of you over as well. Go check it out. The hype is there with this movie. It is not as overrated as the first one. I really, really dug this one. I thought it was excellent. Please go check it out. This is definitely, the hype is here with Dune Part 2 for sure. Number 7. At number 7, I have Challengers. Like Hundreds of Beavers, this really should not have worked as well as it has. I mean, if you really boil it down, this movie is just a love triangle between 3 tennis players. Like, that just sounds like bottom of the barrel Lifetime original movie crap. Yet this was one of the most captivating, engaging, and outstanding films I have seen all year. As someone who could care less about tennis, the way this was able to get me this hyped up and excited for a tennis match is absolutely insane. Great performances all around from Zendaya, Mike Face, and Josh O'Connor. Really strong cast of characters. At some point, you're rooting for Mike Face. Other times, you're rooting for Zendaya. And the rest of the movie, you might be rooting for Josh O'Connor as well. Really strong romance, great chemistry, exciting drama, and a great final tennis match. There's a reason this movie got a lot of hype earlier this year. I feel like that has died down significantly because it released so early in the year. It was kind of a dry season for movie going at that point. And I also think, because not a lot of people went to see it, it made money, but it wasn't like this huge thing, which is why I feel like it has gotten a bit thrown to the wayside. So please go check this out. Again, like with Dune, if someone who doesn't like tennis as much as I do was able to say all of this positive stuff about this movie in particular, then that's got to be a good sign. So please go check this out. I really love Challengers. Number 6. Deadpool and Wolverine. This movie really had an uphill battle to face off, and not just 2 dual Hollywood strikes that caused the film to stop production and get delayed, but also it had to show if Deadpool still got it after 3 movies. It had to show that Deadpool could manage to be in the MCU. It had to show that the MCU in general could still put out a good movie after a slog of just really big disappointments, with exceptions. And fortunately, the film was able to do its job. One of the funniest movies of the year, whether it's just the banter between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, with Hugh Jackman giving a strong performance. He still got it as the Wolverine, and he's got 2 very standout scenes. Great action, great comedy, a strong emotional core, and it just did what it set out to do, pretty much be a really fun, solid R-rated buddy comedy. And at the end of the day, it worked for me. I know the Deadpool shtick is growing tiresome for some people, but it has not grown tiresome for me. I still think it's very funny, and I still love these movies a lot. And I found this movie to be very, very funny, and it worked a lot for me. So if you still think these Deadpool movies are funny, and you're curious to see if he can be in the MCU, and if you're really that curious, I'd say go check it out. It was a blast. There's a reason this was the biggest R-rated film of all time, and it delivered on everything it set out to do. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Number 5, Anora. There is a reason this movie has just become this big thing amongst the film community and even the awards community. It just was able to really knock it out of the park. It was able to turn this very raunchy, filthy sex rom-com and make it something more than that. It is without a doubt the funniest movie I've seen this year. I was laughing from almost beginning to end. The whole middle section where it's just this big wild goose chase is just so funny. The 3 goons that join along Anora in search of this guy was all really, really funny. I found them all to be hilarious, and the situations they got themselves into were really, really funny. But when the movie has to make reality hit, it hits hard, and it can become really tragic and heartbreaking, and I felt like the movie handled that very, very well. Mikey Madison gives an absolutely stunning and groundbreaking performance for herself. This was easily one of the biggest surprises of the year. I see why it's gotten all this attention, especially from the awards community. This really, really surprised me. I cannot recommend it enough. I thoroughly loved it. Don't want to reveal too much. I think this movie worked better if you don't know a whole lot about it. So let me just stop right here and say this movie is very, very good and worthy of your time. Very R-rated though. It's not for everybody. A lot of sex, very raunchy, a lot of nudity, a lot of language. But if you're cool with that, I'd say go check it out. Number 4. At number 4, I have Wicked. This movie, like Deadpool and Wolverine, was also facing an uphill battle with audiences. It's coming at a time where a lot of people just genuinely don't like musicals, and it was also coming out in a year that I think was a pretty lackluster year for musicals, with stuff like Moana 2, Mean Girls, Mufasa the Lion King, and especially Joker 2. And with this one being the longest out of all of them, it just seemed like this movie was in trouble from the beginning. But against all odds, it was able to turn one of the most biggest and beloved Broadway musicals and turn it into a groundbreaking, amazing musical. It shows why musicals were so popular back in the heyday to begin with. They can show off really strong musical numbers, give us incredible songs, and performers who can hit notes that people didn't think humans were capable to hit. And this movie has so many great songs, a great story that takes the stage play and turns it into a movie so elegantly and beautifully. Really strong, surprisingly good comedy, especially out of Ariana Grande, and a great final number that, like I said in my review, had my mouth wide open and the jaw hanging on the floor. One hell of a final big number. It's, like I said, it did everything it needed to do, and there's a reason why it's taken the world by storm. I'm still thinking about those songs and those musical numbers, and I only saw it just a month ago, and it's like with Sonic, it's still one of the few movies on this list that is still in theaters right now, so please go check it out. If you're one of the 10 people who haven't seen it yet, please go see it in the theater. You do need to hear these songs and see this movie in the theater, I think, to fully witness it in all of its glory. Definitely go check it out. There's a reason it's taken the world by storm. Number 3, Inside Out 2. This was another movie that faced an uphill battle, as in a year filled with a lot of disappointing animated sequels, Moana 2, Despicable Me 4, even Kung Fu Panda 4, which me personally, I really liked, but I can say it's definitely the weakest out of the Kung Fu Panda films. And it was also coming out around a time where a lot of people are skeptical of these Disney Pixar sequels. They've been having a rocky road with audiences. And lo and behold, Inside Out 2 has been unanimously been declared as a huge success. And for good reason. They were able to make a really solid, great sequel that, while may not reach the heights of the first film, is pretty damn near close, with a great message and depiction of anxiety and, you know, a girl going through that awkward phase in her life. A fun cast of characters, old and new, gorgeous animation, really solid comedy, and a very strong emotional core that, while might not be Bing Bong Sad still hit a chord for many people, including me, who may have shed a tear a bit. And I just want to say to the animators, I know things have been very stressful at Pixar, and I know making this movie was not the best, but let me just say, you guys rule. You guys were the real heroes behind this movie. Without you, I don't think this movie would have been possible. Your work did not get put to waste, and I hope you feel really proud of yourselves for working on such a stellar and amazing animated film, and I hope you find even more success and get to work on even more better films in the future, in your future endeavors. What else is there to say? There's a reason this is the biggest movie of the year and the biggest animated film of all time. If you're one of the 5 people who have not seen this movie, yes, I urge you to go check this out right now. It is definitely, at the very least, on par, or at least very close to the first film. Really solid sequel. Number 2, Robot Dreams. This was a film that was released in a very small, limited amount of theaters through Neon this year, and fortunately I was able to go check it out during its limited run. One of my theaters was fortunate enough to release this movie for me to see, and thankfully I was able to witness it, because this is one of the best obviously one of the best movies I've seen, but also one of the best films in general, certainly one of the best animated films. Basically, it's about a relationship between this dog and this robot, and some unfortunate circumstances that cause them to be separated, and the events that unfold soon after that. It's told without any dialogue, and yet it's still able to hit very close to home. A very emotional, devastating story, but it's not too doom and gloom. There's also got a lot of gorgeous animation. I love the simplistic designs, the bright colors. It's got its fair share of strong comedy in it as well, and a very sweet, emotional heart to it. And if you've seen this movie, you know that we will never hear 21st Nights of September by Earth, Wind and Fire the same way ever again. That the way it's used in this movie, this movie will be the only thing I think about whenever that song comes on again. Again, this was released in a very small amount of theaters, so if you're able to find this anywhere, digital, Blu-ray, DVD, I think it's on Hulu, but if it leaves and it's on another streaming service, please go check it out. I think you won't be disappointed. Again, like with Anora, I think this is best if you go in blind, not knowing a bit too much about this film, and honestly, I feel like I might have given a bit too much away, so I apologize if I did, but yes, please go watch this movie. This was hands down one of the best films, and definitely the biggest surprises of the year, but it wasn't quite as strong as Number 1. The Wild Robot. As soon as I finished watching that first trailer back in March, I knew this would be something special. Like, how could you not? That trailer was just so perfect. There was no way this would not be anything else other than special. And yet, it still blew me away. I knew it was going to be good, but not this damn good. Absolutely gorgeous, beautifully stylized animation, really well-rounded and lovable characters, great jokes that could be borderline dark and still very, very funny, a strong message about community and motherhood, and an absolutely gut-punching emotional core that left me crying even more than Inside Out 2 did, which I was not expecting. This is easily one of DreamWorks' best films and should rank amongst their best alongside stuff like Shrek and Kung Fu Panda, and especially How to Train Your Dragon. And the fact that we're going to get more of these movies in the future has me very excited and curious to see where they take this story. How are you going to top this? How are you going to match this? I don't know how they're going to do it, but gosh darn it, I'm hoping the best for it, because they were able to still surprise me despite my super high expectations, and I cannot wait to see what they have in store for this next sequel. This movie has been the talk of the town for months at this point, people claiming it is the best animated film of the year, and they are absolutely right, and that is why that reason and a bunch of the other reasons I've previously mentioned, it is the best film of the year. I absolutely loved and adored it. And that was my list of the top 10 best films of 2024. Thank you so much for watching this video and sticking by me for 2024. It was definitely an interesting year filled with ups and downs, but it makes it all the better that so many of you want to watch my videos and are still watching my videos to this day. So I cannot stress it enough. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and just watching my videos. And I hope to see you all around next year when hopefully I get to see even more movies and get even more big surprises out of that year in film. And well, I guess we'll just end it at that. What were your thoughts on my top 10 best films of the year? Which films did you agree with, disagree with? What were your favorite films of the year? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all those social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.